Welcome, everybody, to the Big Book Roundtable in the RICO 12 family of recovery resources. This service is targeted at people from all backgrounds, faiths, and places dealing with addictions and afflictions of all varieties, however alcoholism manifests in your life. RICO 12 is also a resource for the loved ones of addicts. And I'm Justin B., a child of a all-powerful, perfectly loving God and a multidisciplinary addict living in Spokane, Washington, and living in the miraculous recovery promised in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm blessed to be around this table with Nikki M. and David G., and we are blessed to be a part of this program. Nikki, why don't you introduce yourself really quick, and then we'll get to David.
Hi, everybody. I'm an intelligent agent spearhead named Nikki M., live from Toronto, Canada. I have been to Washington, to Bellingham, and I'm going to make my way to Oklahoma. I love America. I got to get down there. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Love to have you. Love to see you around here. All right, David, you're up. Introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, thank you, Justin, for your service. Nikki, always good to be in the circle with you. I'm David G. I'm an alcoholic addict of many sorts from Oklahoma in the USA. I've been given the gift of sobriety since August 8th of 1994, and I'm really, really grateful to be a part of this roundtable. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So what we do in this recording is we go line by line through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And where we're at now is we are in the chapter entitled Into Action. We're on the bottom of page 80. So everybody grab your big book, your highlighter, your pen, your paper. Come get ready to mark this up and get into action as the chapter explains and as we strive to put into practice in our own lives. And we'll read through this and then we'll each comment on it and answer a couple of questions and do some takeaways. So let's get right into reading. Once again, bottom of page 80 in Into Action. The chances are that we have domestic troubles. Perhaps we are mixed up with women in a fashion we wouldn't care to have advertised. We doubt if, in this respect, alcoholics are fundamentally much worse than other people, but drinking does complicate sex relations in the home. After a few years with an alcoholic, a wife gets worn out, resentful, and uncommunicative. How could she be anything else? The husband begins to feel lonely, sorry for himself. He commences to look around in the nightclubs, or their equivalent, for something besides liquor. Perhaps he is having a secret and exciting affair with the girl who understands. In fairness, we must say that she may understand. But what are we going to do about a thing like that? A man so involved often feels very remorseful at times, especially if he is married to a loyal and courageous girl who has literally gone through hell for him. Whatever the situation, we usually have to do something about it. If we are sure our wife does not know, should we tell her? Not always, we think. If she knows in a general way that we have been wild, should we tell her in detail? Undoubtedly, we should admit our fault. She may insist on knowing all the particulars. She will want to know who the woman is and where she is. We feel we ought to say to her that we have no right to involve another person. We are sorry for what we have done, and, God willing, it shall not be repeated. More than that, we cannot do. We have no right to go further. Though there may be justifiable exceptions, and though we wish to lay down no rule of any sort, we have often found this the best course to take. Our design for living is not a one-way street. It is as good for the wife as it is for the husband. If we can forget, so can she. It is better, however, that one does not needlessly name a person upon whom she can vent jealousy. All right, so there's some tricky stuff in this one, and I look forward to getting into this and see what we can figure out as we go around the round table. So let's start with you, Nikki, today. Why don't you take us through and pull out some of the things that are most powerful and important to you?
Okay, I will, and thank you for reading that, Justin. I'm excited, of course, always to hear what David has, and this is an important part because I have yet to meet somebody without a domestic trouble. Okay. And that's a family trouble. Everyone thinks that's always sex. It's love. How about this? My latest sponsee hates her mother. Her mother's 92. She's 60 something. That's domestic trouble. So I have a line out that says, yes, perhaps we're mixed up with people, humans. in a fashion we wouldn't care to have advertised. My line out says, do not do a fifth step at a meeting. Okay, like this is, do not advertise these things. We're in the rooms with sick people. Many times we've said it on this podcast, David said it, you said it, we're getting taught by sick people from youth. This is, do not do a fifth step and give details at a meeting, everybody. I mean, don't do it. It's not safe. We doubt in this respect if alcoholics are fundamentally worse than all people have sex problems. In and out of the rooms. This is, my sponsor just talked about it at our meeting that we have in person last night. He says the two greatest forces in the world, sex and food. You'll kill somebody for food and you'll kill someone for sex. You can't go long without these things. And it's real hard. But everywhere in my book, Justin, I have thinking. See, my thinking, I don't need to be drunk. And you've never been drunk. Our thinking complicates sex relationships inside and outside of the home. And it says, after a few years, after my whole life of alcoholism, Nikki gets worn out. I just get worn out with life. I have two stepdads dead. I didn't meet my dad. You know what I mean? Like, we got some real deep love addiction in my home, family generational alcoholism going on. You name it, we have it. And Nikki's worn out. I like to read it from a first perspective because I'm not the alcoholic here. I'm the sex addict here. This is crazy. And the love addict. And I'm lonely and feeling sorry for myself. So I look around anywhere, and especially at work, because I also worship money. So I'm not at a bar. I'm at work looking for your husband. And secret affairs, yeah. With a girl who understands. See, sick people are in and out of the room. So these people who I think they get me so much, no, they're not. They're just sick like me. They're just sick like me, And a woman, a man so involved often feels remorseful, living in guilt and shame at all times, that I've thrown out my children for my drug of non-choice, a man. I know I'm recovered because you guys know the man I want to marry lives in Luxembourg. I could sell my home. My children are grown. I have my mother living here after her husband killed himself in this disease of alcoholism. So I'm not going anywhere. Whatever the situation, do something about it, says our book. So you can't just sit there. This is a chapter called Into Action. Whatever the situation, do something about it. If we are sure our partner doesn't know, should we tell her? When I read that line, I said this, oh my God, misogynistic men are writing books again. There it is. Because you don't know me, you guys, but I've got brown skin and I'm like, oh my God, the white man again, telling the black woman what to do. Like, I got real weird in this part. And then if I've stayed here long enough, swept away my prejudice, thought honestly, and searched diligently in myself, not always, Nikki knows, general way. See, people forget it. I want to read it real quick. It says, we admit to God, ourselves, another human being, the exact nature of my wrong. The exact nature is not that I do these unmentionables that I don't want to mention on a podcast right now. The exact general way of admitting my faults is that I've been arrogant. I've been rude. I've been lustful. I've been lazy. I've been afraid of everything. I've been irresponsible for my family. I don't need to tell details. I'm finally seeing that now because it says a moral inventory. It didn't say an action inventory. If your sponsor says something else, if David says something else, if Justin says something else, then do it. But this is my experience and it works for me. I didn't need to get into details about what I did with people. They may insist on knowing all the particulars. You want to know the particulars, honey? I've been asleep in life. I didn't care about you. I didn't care about me. Those are the particulars. I don't care about anybody. I want to die. That's the particulars in a general way. And it says, we feel we ought to say to her that we have no right to involve another person. You want details? We've talked about it on a previous podcast. If you want the details, son, daughter, mom, husband, wife, you won't ever want to look at me again. You can share in a general way. The book tells you this. We're sorry for what we have done, and God willing, my sponsor said, give no names, give no details. We don't need these things. Go deeper. It's not just with sex. I don't want to be involved in crimes. You understand the sex addiction goes real twisted. So does money addiction. So alcoholism goes twisted. Okay. More than that, we cannot do. Here it says, I love this. Where it says, we wish to lay down no rule. There's not a lot of rules. We read one the other day, I think, about the rule is to be hard on ourselves. Or maybe we're going to read it coming up. But we don't have a lot of rules here. But it says, we found this the best course of action to take. What course? Do something about it in a general way. Admit your faults. You have no right to involve another person. And God willing, you will never repeat that. That is the course to take. Our design for living is not a one-way street. Involve your entire family. Involve the world, please. Al-Anon, family, read this book. If we forget, so can she. Remember, you guys, the power of God runs so deep. If we can heal, everyone around us can heal. Be armed with the facts. It's better, however, that one does not needlessly name a person. Give no names or details. Because I'm a crazy woman, David and Justin. And I'm not just a spearhead. I'm a private detective too on days off. I will find that person, drive to their house, and do weird things. Google the woman who you guys remember was in your country. She was an astronaut. She wore a space diaper to find her lover's partner. She wore a space diaper to drive across country. I don't think they have that in your truck stops. Okay, so she didn't have to stop and pee, so she could go murder someone in her love addiction. Nikki, she's crazy. No, I'm willing to do that too. So that's my experience, strength, and hope on this is that follow the exact instruction, or you may have someone showing up on your door in a space diaper wanting to murder you. That's my experience.
Thank you, Nikki, for going through that. David, let's have you go through this and give us some takeaways from it also, and what sticks out to you.
Yeah, sure. This is what, first of all, thank you, Nikki, for your heartfelt share there. And, this has been an issue with me for all of my life. It just has. I'm the same way. I've found good recovery since 2019. I have had some hiccups. I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you or tell you that I haven't. I have, but today is a good day, and so as many others that I've been away from this. We have to throw ourselves under the grace and the mercy of God, or else. I've found no other way. I haven't. I can do the steps. I can read the book. I can do this. I can work with all these other guys that are just famous in the fellowships, and I've done all that. But at the end of the day, if my relationship is not right with God, great events will not come to pass. This shit will continue on and on and on. And I found myself one more time here, by not honoring promises that I made. My mind would justify and tell me that it's okay. It's not going to happen to us this time this way. We need to help others so that they can help others on the female side. I don't do that shit anymore. I just don't. And this is why I say and have said many times in this podcast and everywhere else I go to speak, I love women now. They're my sisters. It's a part of my sane and sound idea that I will only communicate with those that are really, really, really doing this deal. And I'll pray for those who aren't. And that's just the way it is. I've had people tell me that's not fair. You need to share. I don't give a damn what you think is fair in my life. Me dying from this illness and taking my wife with me, who is completely innocent of it, that's damn sure not fair. So, no, there's more than a chance that I've had domestic trouble and mixed up with women in a fashion that I wouldn't care to have advertised. That's not just a chance. That's damn sure a reality. That's what's happened to me. And so I love it says that we're no worse than anyone else. I don't believe that. I know a lot of people that don't suffer from the disease of alcoholism that do something like this, and guilt and shame makes them go away and never do it again. That's not my story. I heal up pretty quick from this. My ego comes back and we do it again and again and again and again. It's just the way it happens. So I have a beautiful wife who has always been loyal to me for as long as we've ever been married. She is a long-term member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and Al-Anon knows this book inside and out, as she's 27 years sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, and probably that long, if not longer, in Al-Anon. She's a very avid Bible reader. She lives what it says. She just doesn't read it and spout it. She stays in the background. She's never out front. That's always been me. But she's the reason today that I am where I am in my recovery and in my belief, because she forgave me for the unforgivable, not once, not twice, but more times than I can count. And it's just, and it talks about it in that first full paragraph on 81. A man so involved often feels, key word, feels very remorseful at times, especially if he is married to a loyal and courageous girl who has literally gone through hell for him. And for 5 years, she turned away from the fellowship, would not come back. Rightfully so, because I'd done so many things with the people, the women that she had sponsored, and right in front of her face in meetings. And it was just an awful, awful thing. So, it's something that this is a very hard thing to share about these days. Whatever the situation, we usually have to do something about it. What do we have to do about it? We got to get off of our ass and move into recovery. Either you want to recover from this deal or you don't. If you don't, I ain't got time to mess with you at all. And the first thing I ask my guys whenever I begin to sponsor them, where are you at in your relationship with your wife? Or they'll come to me and tell me, you know what, I can't meet on Tuesday night because my wife, this. I'm like, what was you doing last Tuesday night before we got into this book and you called me dying? What was you doing? So, don't give me that bullshit. And, we got to do something about it. If we're sure that she doesn't know, should we tell her? Not always, we think. You got to remember, Bill wrote this. And Bill suffered from this big time. He comes up with some pretty absurd bullshit in one of these sentences. End of the page, top of 82. If we can forget, so can she. Yeah, good luck with that, guys. Let me know how that works out. Because I promise you, I can forget by this afternoon. But that's a scar that lasts with them a lifetime. Unless I'm spiritually fit and I'm willing to turn from this and say, hey, I'm going to do whatever you ask me to do in order to make this right. And that's what I came back to her and said, I'll do anything it takes to save our marriage. And I was absolutely, absolutely with all of my heart convinced of that. Today, I'm in a better place with that than ever before. I was asked to speak at a live event in Oklahoma City this past weekend. And there were about 600 people there. And it's the first time I've been invited back to Oklahoma in 6 years to speak at an event because of the damage that I'd done. And to have my wife with me in the crowd, in the front, with our heads held high. My sponsor from Dallas and his wife drove over, and we were all together, and we were there, and it was just a beautiful thing. And I was able to share, and I was able to be honest in a general way about what had happened and how sorry I was. And at the end of those events, if you ever spoke at a live conference, you got people that's just on all sides of you, shaking hands, giving you a hug, telling you. And there was a young lady that approached me in the crowd, and she was crying, and she said, I have to forgive you. I have to forgive you. And she turned and walked away. And I didn't recognize her. I couldn't see who she was, and I had too many people around me. I couldn't say, hey, come back, let's talk, And so one of the things that I did was I became transparent about it later on. We ended up, doing some more fellowship after all that was over. And when we got back to the room, I told my wife, I just said, there's something I need to tell you because I don't want this dragging on in my mind. And then here's what happened, and we looked at it, rationalized about it. I prayed for this person, whoever it may have been. I don't know. And it was gone. But if I would have held that a secret, I better not say nothing. That might hurt her feelings. And, we're past all that bullshit now. It's right here, Should we tell her? He says, not always, we think. I think, by God, maybe we should. But look what it says. Should we tell her in detail? Undoubtedly, we should admit our fault. There's a difference in me admitting my fault and me going into a long explanation and a history of every single thing I've done that's only going to bring more harm. My fault was I was selfish. I was self-centered. I was full of pride, fear, and ego. And I took actions based on that brought harm to you. And for that, I'll regret the rest of my life, and I'll do whatever I can to make it right. That's the amends right there. And so that's what I do. God willing, it will not be repeated. More than that, we cannot do, period. And so I live by that. And, you know, it's just, we hurt a lot of people in active addiction, but we have a chance right here to be careful here, because you can damn sure hurt somebody a lot more right here if you're not careful and you're not under good supervision and under the guidance of a good sponsor and a loving God. If we're not in conscious contact, I'm telling you, we can put the hurt to people here. I've had guys come and tell me, my counselor had me to write my life an exposure letter, and she knew nothing about it. And she came with me and we sat down and I read it to her in his office. And I'm like, you're the biggest dumbass that I know on the planet. Why would you do something like that? Well, he told me to. Well, you need to get rid of that son of a bitch, whoop his ass and then make amends for whipping his ass. But he needs an ass whipping for acting that way. Don't listen to that bullshit, because that's going to bring more harm to that person than you could ever. Just imagine coming in and someone dumping a load like that on top of you just so that you can feel a little better. No, that ain't how this deal works at all. So I'm going to end with this. It is better, top of 82, that one does not needlessly name a person. Leave that out. Leave that out. Names are not to be discussed here. I know they're going to want them. I can't do that. My wife didn't want a name. She didn't want particulars, but she did want to know the cities that we go to where you speak and do book studies. Did you do that there? Because you're not walking me in to a gunshot. I damn well have the right to know. If you've done that, you go by yourself. So we're on the other side of all that today, and we live a very good life, and I sure as hell intend to keep it that way. So thank you, Justin.
And thank you, David and Nikki. I'm going to do this a little bit different this time. I'm going to share my own experience, strength, and hope on this topic, because that is something that, as you mentioned, David, so many people in fellowships that I'm in are about these full therapeutic disclosures. And man, I have very rarely seen good come from that. That heals, that allows people to really repair their relationship. My own experience is that I caused a lot of harm to my wife, my family, a lot of other people. And I was not ready to come into recovery when I partially disclosed to my wife that I struggled. And yes, it crushed her. But I am so grateful that she went and sought support rather than, well, she did try and control. She did try and do those things initially, but because I'm such a jerk, I'm like, you can't control me. I was a jerk. But she went and she got into the rooms, the Anon rooms, and they were healthy rooms, ones that said, hey, you can't fix your husband. You can't change him, but you can change yourself and your own relationship with God. Now, I went into the rooms seven years later, and I started getting into recovery, and I did a full step 4. I did, full step 5. I went in depth there with my sponsor. My wife has told me many times and still continues to say this: I don't want to know. I don't want to know names. I don't want to know details. I just want to know that you are in recovery and that you're working recovery. And that is a massive blessing in my life that she, like you said, if we can forget, so can she. No, she can't forget. And she'll tell me my memory is a blessing and a curse, because she remembers everything. And if there's names, if there's specifics, it's going to stay there, and it's going to hurt forever. But my experience is, for me, is that the details are going to cause more harm than good. the names are going to destroy not just my life, my wife's life, my family's life, but possibly other families' lives. And that can't be. And I'm just going to kind of open this up. David and Nikki, do you have any other thoughts on this before we close up on that?
Well, I'll just jump in here for both of you because I want to put on my Noodle Nikki hat, and I want to call out on David when he said, if we can forgive, so can she. And you guys are both living examples of that. Because David said, well, that's kind of, no, David, your wife completely forgave you, and so did Justin. So this is an absolute fact in our book that if we can forget, so can she, because I'm going to give you some numbers and odds. You guys are now out of that because it's like, oh, well, maybe they can't. We've got 3 people at the round table. Your wife completely forgave you, David. Justin, your wife completely forgave you. Now, my acting out behaviors recently with the man I love, who's just texting me now, thank you, God, is this. I was, verbally, I wasn't acting out. I didn't get to that point, but I was out of my mind in my addiction. He said he didn't want to speak to me again. Remember, he canceled my Christmas ticket. And we just got back from Istanbul, 3 weeks ago. So he could forgive too. So that's a batting average, 3 out of 3, Justin, or however you want to call it. Your partner forgave you. Your partner, my partner forgave me. So I want the listeners to know that all things are possible. This is a magic book. If you follow the exact instructions, I think we forgave ourselves. So when we forgive ourselves, others will naturally forgive us. I just had to put that out there because David said, well, da-da-da. But David, come on, let's call bullshit. Everyone's getting forgiven here. Talk to me, David.
Yeah, absolutely, because it doesn't say shit about forgiving. It says if we can forget, so can she. There's a difference in those 2 words.
True.
The book I'm reading here says if we can forget. So it's easy for me to justify forgetting, but can she? And so, yes, forgiveness is absolutely taking place. And it has also changed her in a way that is unbelievable. She no longer depends upon me as for God and all this other shit. There was some sickness there with her too. That's all been healed. But you got to read that carefully. If we can forget, so can she. There's a difference between forgiving and forgetting. She's not going to forget what I've done because she's not going to open herself up to that again. Now, is she going to carry that around in every day? No, that's not what I'm saying. But, the forgiveness is absolutely there. You're right. Has she forgot what I've done? Hell no. And I think Bill was justifying himself right there. Yeah, okay, if we can forget, so can she. Yeah. Well, you're married to a different woman than I am, bud. So anyway, thanks.
I love you. Can I say something? This is why I need you guys in my life, because you're right. David's sponsoring me here. Justin, you are too. But I'm going to say one more thing. I can never forgive if I don't forget. That's just for me. I'm never, as a woman, you guys, because I'm the woman at the table, I'm never going to forgive if I can't forget. And it's a daily reprieve too. So thank you, David, for that clarification. I love you guys.
But are you going to forget the way you treated that man and let that come back and happen again? Yes or no?
No, I'm not going to act like that again.
Okay. Then you haven't forgot.
God, I love you. Mwah, 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 mwah.
Love this. And I was going to actually jump in and say something similar. So Heather, my wife, she said something to me and learned something fairly early in her recovery. She said, you know what? I need to forgive you for my own sanity, but I do not have to trust you. I do not have to forget this, but I need to forgive so that I can move on and find peace in my own life. And I think that is very powerful with this. And, over the last 13-ish years, 12 years that I've been in the rooms, the trust is slowly rebuilding, Now, and the forgiveness is there. And I'm so grateful for that. But forget has not happened, unfortunately, in her life. Or should it, I think, because she needs to remember that, we are that I am a human and that others around her are human, and go from there. So anything else before I wrap this up that we want to make a comment? Okay, perfect. Thank you, everybody. This has been a fantastic conversation. Remember to jump into this with us. Join in the fellowship of the Spirit and come trudge this adventurous and amazing road of happy destiny with us. Work it. You are worth it.